to Something for the Turbo, the new weekly podcast brought to you by Unfound, the global platform for the travel-loving cyclist. Welcome to the show. Today I'm joined by one of the most passionate cyclists and nicest people I've ever spoken to. Ade Hill is the founder of Alpcycles, a business he runs alongside with his wife Shelley. They live in the Alps and they support many of the biggest cycling events that we know and love. They work closely with the Haute Route. In fact, Ade is the Lanterne Rouge, so you may well have seen him if you've done any of those events. They also work with the Marmot and new up-and-coming events like Ride Across Portugal. We discuss all things cycling across Europe, really, the things to look out for, the best climbs, some of the experiences you can expect, food, the accommodation, and a lot more. It's a really interesting conversation. We hope you enjoy it. Before we do, though, if you're enjoying the podcast, please do subscribe, tell your mates, spread the word. The more people we can get on here and listening, the more content we can put out. But we appreciate your support so far. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ade Hill. Ade, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
It's a pleasure. I'm totally fine. Yeah, just over the weekend into Monday and ready to go. Yeah.
Is it warming up out there with you?
We've had a couple of days on and off of like May. Normally the weather tends to take a bit of a drop, so we've had a bit of rain on and off, but next sort of 2 weeks looking good. So that's a big positive because as soon as we came out of our confinement as such, we'd had good weather for all the time, and then as soon as we came out, it rained for like 3 days straight. So that was a bit disappointing, but looking.
That was inevitable, right?
Yeah,
always going to happen.
It was like everyone was talking to each other on WhatsApp saying, "Oh, you're riding." It was Monday, and then of course it just rained all day. I could see people going out, and people were messaging me going, "You're riding." And I was like, "No, I'm not going out now. I'll stay home." And
Not a chance.
I'll stay home. I'm not that keen to get out. So yeah, but all good. Yeah.
Imagine this time of year is perfect. Actually, it's just it's probably still quite chilly. Is it over with you? But you got snow on the top of the mountains,
we call it kind of snowbank season this time of year because a lot of the coals are getting pushed now snow wise, and so of course a lot of the rides you're climbing up into the snowbanks on the side. So it's a pretty special time of year, and of course it's still it's super quiet as well. So the roads it's just good riding really. And yeah, the weather gets pretty warm now. I mean, it's 23, 24 outside today. But when the weather changes, it can drop and jump around a lot in May. So some days, the temperature drop right down. But at the moment, it's kind of a hard time to layer clothing wise because you go out overdressed if you ride early, and then you end up carrying it all the time you come home, which is a bit annoying.
Oh, it can be like that all year round in the mountains, can't it?
Yeah, you've always kind of got to be prepared, really, and it's rare you go out. If I'm going out closer to home, I might go out just jersey shorts, but normally got a gilet or a small waterproof thrown in to get you out of trouble. But most days, if it's looking clear blue and I'm not going too high, it's fine, just shorts, jersey. But of course, I think this week I'll start heading up a bit higher. So it'll still be jacket weather that high. 2,000 meter plus will be jackets, I think, still.
I'm very, very envious of you getting out up into the mountains. But I gave a good overview and introduction. You're a man that probably for a lot of people doesn't need an introduction, given that you've become synonymous with the Haute Route and the Alps. But it'd be good to sort of fill others in.
Notorious, maybe.
Sorry?
Notorious.
Notorious. Notorious. Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, how did you end up setting Alpcycles up, and what's the story? You've always cycled?
Always since started off a lot of running, triathlon, and my main move to actual road racing was I was in the army, and
okay,
whilst I was in there, I used to run loads, and then I did a bit of triathlon before I went in, and then with the cycling, really, they introduced me to try out for the army cycling team. And I literally didn't even, I could time trial pretty quick, but I couldn't go around a bend or anything like that. So I could ride really fast in a straight line, but I had no bike handling skills. So they basically nurtured me, taught me how to ride, etc. So I learned all my crafts really in the army.
That's awesome. So you talk me through the army cycling team. You sort of travel around, racing all over. What's the format?
It was and this is 20 years ago, and it was really well developed then. I mean, there was guys in there, like a lot of the lads were, Commonwealth Games level riders. So the team was super. Even back then, we were, and I imagine now I was like a total newbie as such. Like I said, so I could ride quick, but I couldn't ride in a bunch. I couldn't do anything. So, we had lads there who just took you to one side, taught all your cycling craft, etc. Was through them really. But the team was super set up. We had proper domestics, etc. So, back then I was just a kid, so I was riding just domestic duties. And yeah, we did a lot of racing, and I kind of look back now and I can't even really think some of the races are so hard, and I don't even know how I used to get through, really, to be honest. When I kind of look back, because you're so young, it was just what people were kind of, back then you didn't have any power, you didn't have anything telling you what to do, you just got in a race and you rode as hard as you could, basically. So
gas.
Yeah.
And how does it work? I always look at sports in the army as it looks fantastic, right? So were you racing almost full time, or you still doing your day jobs with the army? How does that work?
A lot of like I said, when I was in the team as such, I wasn't like, compared with the rider I am now, I wasn't experienced. I didn't know what I was doing. So, I was a total newbie. So, they just helped me loads. And yeah, we raced weekly, and everything's paid for as well. So, bikes, your kit, all your expenses to go to races, etc. We used to go to the International Isle of Man, stuff like that. And, a lot of the top lads, that I wouldn't say I was one of the top lads. So the top end riders would ride full time, basically. That's all they do. But the only thing that happens is you don't, as a sports person, your career in the military you don't further in your career in the military. So sooner or later you have to make the choice if you want to get any further.
Right. Okay, that's what I was getting at. Okay, so what, you went back to sort of military duties, or how did it work?
I was still at regiment, like, all the time. But as I said, I wasn't really good. I wouldn't say I was full-time sports person in there, but really because I did a bit of everything, I'd spend my whole time at different sporting events, really. Whereas a lot of the lads on the cycling team are a lot better than me. So that was their one thing. They just went everywhere riding. Whereas I do riding with them, and then I do running events, etc. So all sorts of different things. But yeah, I don't know if it's changed now. I'd imagine, this was 20 years ago, and the cycling team was the most professional kind of outfit I'd ever seen. So I'd imagine 20 years on, it must be nuts now. They must be.
Yeah, and they do is it like a branding exercise for the army? Because I know the rugby's big as well. The sevens team as well travels around the world. Is it like a branding for the army? Is that why they do these sort of full-on sports things?
Also, a lot of it outside of the races that you go to all over, it's very important for the services against each other. So we have inter competitions between Navy, etc. Anyway, and it's a huge pride thing as well. All forces want to be the best, basically. So that's what it comes down to. It's a branding exercise, but also they love winning. I remember being like even into regimental stuff in my corps, to go and race against other corps. You're there to win, and that's what they want you to do at all costs. So it's just that competitive side of things, really.
How long were you in the army for?
I was only 6 years I was in, so only really, not a super long time, really.
It's long enough.
Long enough. I enjoyed it while I was there, and I think I learn't a lot. So I think it helped a lot in later life, for sure. A lot of people, like nowadays, I know I was quite lucky while I was in. Well, not lucky, but there wasn't an awful lot of conflict going on as such while I was in. So I was pretty lucky in that way, that I had a lot of the good times, but not a lot of the bad times as such. So I was quite lucky in that way.
So what year did you come out? When was that? I'm trying to get my bearings.
I think I came out around about 2000, 2002, something like that, maybe 2003, I think. So then when I came out, I carried on racing on the road for a couple of years, like just locally, and did a lot. I did a lot then. I raced probably 3 times a week. But I was only ever, I raced E12, but I wasn't. I consider myself an okay cyclist. I wasn't winning. I could get top 5s, top 3s, but I couldn't. Mostly in crit races.
Hold your own.
Yeah, I could hold my own. I wouldn't say I was a. You kind of get to a point where you've got it or you haven't, I think is the word. And I was okay and I enjoyed it, but there was a point where I think local racing as well. It gets to the point where it's the same people week in, week out, and I used to get a bit. Exactly how every race is going to go, and it gets a little bit dull after a while, I think. So yeah. And that's what originally, that's what brought us here really, because I was, Shelley was working a normal job. We had a house and stuff, and it just all got a little bit boring. So we thought, right, we'll go and do a ski season.
That was it. So that was '05, wasn't it? You went and did a ski season.
Yeah, but I still, even though I'd stopped riding for a bit, I'd just stopped racing because I just had enough of it, and but I still brought my bike with me. So we turned up into the airport, and all these little kids have got their skis and etc. And they're like looking at my bag, and I got my cyclocross bike with me. So it was, but you think back then to even 2005, cycling was still, people didn't ride bikes really. It was still a very niche thing. So a lot of people never, even here, they're just like, what is he doing? So they just couldn't get their heads around why I'm riding my bike. So I did take about, probably most of the winter I didn't really touch it. But of course, as soon as the sun came out in April, I'm in the mountains. It's like, what else am I going to do? I'm going to go and ride up them. So that was.
Was it that summer? Sorry, that winter you decided that you want to stay for the summer, or you just felt that this was home now, or?
It was such a different life. I think the seasonal life, it's, like with the winter seasons, it's like being on holiday, when you're first here. It's like a long holiday. You work to go to the pub, don't get paid much, but they put you up, etc. So you just, it's like being on holiday really to do a season.
Good life. And it's active as well. You're not sat at a desk in an office, right?
We worked in chalet, so make breakfast in the morning, clean up the chalet, then you go skiing all day, come back, make dinner, go to the pub, go skiing all day.
Where did you do the season? In Meribel?
Yeah, up in Meribel, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, where are you based now?
So we're still in that area. So we're still northern Alps. So basically, where we live, Brazil. So it is like, we're southeast France, northern Alps. So we're now at the foot of the resorts. So we're at the foot of the Trois Vallées, which is the biggest ski resort in the world, basically. And we're at the foot of there now. So what they say is, once you get old, you move off the mountain, away from all the skiing, and you move down the hill. So they call it Nappy Valley. So as soon as you have kids, you move down to Brazil, because it's the only place you can have kids really and live properly with shop.
What sort of altitude? Are you right down in the valley? Are you still slightly at altitude?
No, so my actual house, I'm 1,100 meters where I am.
Oh, nice.
Like where my son goes to school, they're about 800 meters just below us. So it's still, every day I've still got to climb a good 10k ish to get home to my house, depending where I go. So yeah, we're still fairly high. But this is the first town at the bottom of the resorts that has well, obviously nothing's open at the moment, but has all year round facilities. Whereas living up in the resort with children is quite hard, because there's no shops open at certain times. So a bit like being in lockdown all the time. That's what it's like living in a resort. So it's just nothing open.
I'm sure many people that ski will be very familiar with the area from a skiing perspective. But from a cycling perspective, what are the major climbs you've got on your doorstep then?
Well, obviously you've got the the famous ski resort roads nearby, but we're 15 kilometers from the foot of the Col de Madeleine here. We have the Cormet de Roseland, which has been in the tour a lot. We've got the Col de Iseron, Petit Saint Bernard. It's just Col de Saisy, Col de Aravi. It's endless basically, the amount of climbs that we have nearby. So some of them they're too big to loop from here. So say the Aravi region, which is Col de Aravi, Col de Colombia, etc. You'd probably drive. For those ones, you'd have to drive, say, 30 minutes, jump out. Then you could do, 120k on them and be back. Whereas from here, they would be rideable, but it'd be like 200k as such. So probably not everybody's cup of tea.
God, that's amazing to have all that on your doorstep, or just a short drive away. So going back a step. So you set up Alpcycles? What was the thinking? So you'd done the winter. You wanted to see it for the summer. You thought cycling could be the way forward. And when did you set the business up?
So we came in 2005 and we started dabbling with it, started thinking about it more or less. We went to Chamonix for a summer, and then we started thinking about it that summer. And, we set up a website. And so really 2006, we started dabbling. But I'd say 2007 was the year where it started, people started properly coming. We had some friends come and stay to try stuff out and etc. But 2007 was our first proper year paying clients as such. And you know, we
and your timing is impeccable. I suppose the UK is your major market for guests, is it?
When we actually started back then, it was actually Australia more than anywhere else.
Was it? Yeah, yeah.
We had huge, you know, I remember the first time we put a Tour de France trip on, 2007, and we took, you know, it doesn't sound much, but in our first year we took like 25 people on our first trip. Wow. And it was all Australian. And then in the early years, we were quite lucky. We hooked up with a company, and they still go now, called Bike Style Tours, and they're one of the biggest tour operators out of Australia for cycling. And we used to run our Tour de France trips with them in conjunction, because they basically had so many clients out of Australia. So they were quite, you know, the guy who ran it then, it's been sold now, was a very, very experienced in this field. And he gave us loads of advice and helped us a lot in the time, a guy called Laurie Cranley. So he helped us. He basically kept us going, because, you know, he used to send us for the Tour de France. It was nuts back, because we were just kids still, really, in our 20s. Yeah. And we were running trips for the Tour de France for like 60 odd people back then, you know. And when I look back at it now, we had coaches and trailers, and our biggest trip now, maybe around the Marmot's probably 40ish, I reckon. This was in like our first couple of years, and it was, but you know, that's what kept us going. The one big trip a year, really. So that was pretty nuts time to take. But
yeah, you must have learned so much as well.
Yeah, like a lot of ways, you know. Now we'd never go that big again, really, and we'd never, you know, we used to have coaches, and of course the coach is your worst nightmare, because one person will be back on time, but then two people won't be back on time, and then everyone's waiting. So, you know, you learn so much in those early days of how to run things slick. You know, that's my thing. I like things to run. I don't like people waiting around. I like everyone it all to be slick as such. But, you know, it was what kept us, you know, we used to run normal camps during the week where we'd have anything from 5 to 10 people at the start. And as I said, the Tour de France, you know, this is about 3 years in, where we were taking a lot more people. But yeah, so it just slowly grew from there, really. And back then as well.
14 years now.
Yeah, back then though, you know, Shelley it was just me. I'd drive to the airport, I'd pick the people up, I'd do all the guiding. Shelley would be in the chalet, so we do everything between sort of two of us, really, or maybe three at a push. Yeah, when I look back, it was nuts, because I'd ride all day, and then I'd be doing everything in the evening as well. It was madness, really. But good times.
Exhausting times. And through that time, you mentioned obviously you love running things, so they work like clockwork and they're slick. I think if you speak to people that have been in your tours, I think you and Shelley's personality as well is a big draw for the Alpcycle experience. What would you say are the sort of key distinguishing factors for an Alpcycles trip?
I think a big thing for us, which, you know, don't get me wrong, I love the cycling side of it, or I love guiding, etc. But also for us, it's hospitality. That I think, because we both, from working with ski clients, etc., are from the hospitality trade as such. That side, probably more important than anything else, is actually the face-to-face time with clients, and make it, you know, our whole ethos is it's kind of about being a family, really. And everybody, you know, a lot of our clients who've come on trips, they've come solo, so, you know, they're just on their own, and they come and they meet people from other trips that they've been on with us, and a lot of them are friends now, which is nuts. We've even had people get married, which is
wow.
Which is nuts. So
I hope you got an invite.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we've had two, in fact, two marriages since we've been running. So a lot of these people have met throughout, and, you know, the whole cycling community, like yourself and like a lot of the people who be listening are in, you know, it's quite a small community, and everybody kind of knows everybody. But, you know, it's funny now, I'm in so many different WhatsApp groups of all people from trips, and everybody's a set. But a lot of these people, and then I suddenly think, well, how do they know so and so? And then it's actually, they all know each other through Alpcycles, which even 14 years on is probably the coolest thing ever for us, that all these people are all friends due to us, you know, which is cool.
I have to say, I was commuting on the bike into London. I'm not sure I've told you this, maybe a couple of months ago, and I started chatting with a fellow who lives in Kingston, and I don't know how we got onto Alpcycles, but I think he was on one of your first ever trips.
Yeah, it's
12 years ago.
It's super bizarre sometimes, because I don't get back to the UK loads, and we went to the 6 Day a couple of years ago. I think it was probably 3 years ago, and obviously a lot of cyclists going, and just bumping into so many people. that I haven't seen them for 10 years because they were coming on trips back then. And, life changes. People have kids, people get ill, people change jobs, people move countries. But then we have people, and they were with us 10 years ago, and you don't hear, you might be friends with them on Facebook or Instagram, but then you don't really hear from them. And then suddenly they get back in touch and they come back on a trip, which is super cool to have people. And it's just, that's our thing, is trying to create like a family. And the whole world of communities is banded around a lot now. It's a bit of a niche word, I think, but it is kind of what we try. I don't think we tried to do it, but it's what's happened. We've got a community of people, and anyone. But the big thing is that I don't think anyone who comes as a new person, it's not like a clique. Everybody just
exactly
accepts people. We have with Oat Root the other year, we had people in the top 3, top 5, and then we had a client, Diane, who's from Scotland, who's in her 60s. She'd never done a Oat Root, and she was mostly with me most days as Lanterne Rouge in the back, and then we're back at the tent. The guys have been in maybe 2 hours longer, but she's part of the crew, and they were so, they'd all be lining up to clap Diane in every day, which is just,
that's brilliant.
And so I think a lot of the pretentiousness of cycling sometimes, there is a lot of that around it, and I don't like that really. So it
doesn't need to be that way. I agree, and I think that's testament to you and Shelley, and also the Oat Route is a great environment like that as well. It's quite inclusive.
Yeah, and I think cycling's changing though, and there were, when I came up through the ranks, it was a very non-inclusive sport, and there was always, you're not quick enough, you're not riding, etc. And I don't really ride in groups much now because we don't have that community so much in France with groups. We have expat communities, but they're only small here because it's a small area for riding when I ride on my own. And I just hope that that's starting to slowly slip away. I think it is starting to slowly slip away. And also, you always had the I'm a mountain biker, I'm a road cyclist going on when we first started kind of thing. But everyone's just bike riders now. I ride BMX, I ride mountain bike, I ride everything, and that's what's changing. I think now is everybody, we all flip off and do different things at different times. So I think that's what's making it more, the community more acceptable of everybody, which is great, I think.
Just appreciating being out on a bike is great, and it doesn't really matter what you're wearing or what you're riding or how good you are. It's just
it's nice to see so many people starting, and it's not a scary place to be, I don't think, anymore, to learn. I think sometimes now bike handling's the biggest thing I think we see problems with. I think a lot of people jump on the bike, especially coming over here into the mountains. You've got to, more than anything for cyclists now, I think bike handling's the biggest thing. And my advice is, get on a mountain bike, ride figure of 8s, go ride around cones, and that's the biggest thing, is the fear of cycling. But if you can get those grounding skills in, that, because a lot of people who ride now, they didn't ride as children, so that the natural bike handling skills that you have as a kid aren't there. So I think it's quite important to. That's probably the most important thing, over fitness and anything, is actually just riding a bike a lot to get used.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, I'm really hoping that we see another big boom in the sport, given where we are with the world at the moment. I mean, certainly the rides I've done outside, I've seen a lot more people sort of dusting off the old bike from the shed and getting out on the roads, and it's brilliant to see, and I hope that that's encouraged and people stick at it. I mean, it's nice to do when the sun's out, but hopefully that becomes a habit and we see another big boom in the sport, not only here in the UK but across the world. I know we saw that here in 2012, but it's good to see. And obviously I think off the back of that, hopefully a bigger diversity in clients coming out and exploring the world and to the Alps, and it'd be good to, anyone can do it, right? It's particularly with e-bikes now. There's no reason that anyone who's loved cycling cannot come and do a tour with Alpcycles.
I think we haven't had e-bikes etc. on trips, because as a lot of our stuff is with the events and stuff, especially over in France, the e-bike is huge, because like in the village I live in, a lot of the people are fit, healthy people, but they're all in their 70s, 80s, ex-ski instructors, etc. Who to ride to the village shop where we are is a 3k descent, 3k back up, really. So without e-bikes, a lot of them probably wouldn't tackle that. Whereas right now, they're you see them every day up and down on their e-bikes, which is fantastic for just for everybody, really, I think.
Yeah, that's nice. So just going back a step, talk me through, I know that you guys do a lot of work with specific events, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but you also do sort of bespoke trips. You mentioned people can come out on their own. So With regards to the events, what events do you do and how does that work? Is that, groups can come and join you as well as individuals? Let's start with the events. Which events are you working with at the moment?
So like obviously this year now it's all a bit up in the air, but normally we work with, we're official tour operators for Étape du Tour, Le Marmot, Maratona de Dolomites, or most of the European events with Haute Route, and Ride Across Portugal, which is a new one for us.
Oh, that's that new one, isn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like most people know, most things have been postponed this year over to next year, which is a real shame, but that's just how it is. And I think it's, health and safety wise, it had to happen, which is common sense, really. So it's, it's a sad time. Right now I'd be in Portugal, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, so with clients, we have all the entries. As official tour operator, we have the entries. So like, especially with things like Étape du Tour, Maratona de Dolomites, most of these events, like with the Maratona, you have to go into a ballot to get your entry. You have to go into a ballot. So we have, but we've already bought our entries or been given our entries by the company, and then we can sell them a lot of times before the entries open as well. But of course, with ours, we sell them with an accommodation package, logistics package with the entry. But anyone can come from group.
Anyone can come. Okay, cool. And that's that whole bringing people together and community thing you were referring to earlier. So.
And like I said, you might have 3 people come together, you might have 5 people come together. Some trips you don't have anyone come together. You might have 20 individuals who don't know each other. It's totally, we never know really until all of our clients. So a big part of it is Shelley, really. Loads of people know me, etc. But Shelley's why Alpcycles works as such, because she's very good at talking to people and beforehand, also with trips, we don't want people to, we're quite happy to say this isn't the trip for you. We're not about, for us, it's not about making money. If we think they're going on a trip that won't suit them or their riding ability or etc., we're happily say, this one's not for you. Maybe try this, come and do a weekend, try this trip before you go and bite off more than you can chew, kind of thing. That's what we don't want happening, really. So Shelley will talk in depth with people, and I'll look at their riding stuff if they want me to. Some people just say I want to do that, and that's no problem. But we do try to have a bit of input to make sure they're not kind of taking on something that will just be miserable. Basically, it will be hard. Sometimes with some of the Haute Route stuff, and it's a lot of time put into the training, etc. So they've got to, like with the Marmot, so horrific day on the bike, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've not done it actually.
Well, we get you out. It might still be running this year, fingers crossed, in September. So maybe we should get you over for some. It's probably one of my favourite. I'm biased, but I think it's one of the hardest one days on a bike you could have in the mountains. So we talk to people if we can to see what they've done before throwing people into the deep end as such.
Yeah, I've not done it actually.
Well, we'll have to see how you've been on that trainer, Jules, before we make a choice.
Oh. Yeah, we need to cut the beers out now, I think.
Yeah.
So that's good. And how did the Haute Route connection come about?
I think it was like, actually, as soon as I saw the Haute Route pop up, I can't remember what year it was now. It must have been 2011, something like that. I actually emailed them and said, do you work with tour operators, etc. But back then it wasn't the norm as such for people to have tour operators, really. So they actually got back and said, no, we don't work with tour operators. So I didn't think much more about it. And then I think it was 2013 or maybe 2012 or 2013, they got in touch and said, do you want to come and ride like a 3-day? Back then they didn't have the specific 3 days. It was only the 7. So they invited me to go and ride a 3-day. 3 days of one of the 7 days to see what it's all about. And in the meantime, the Longtemps Rouge, which is the back marker rider, was a guy. So we knew a few people within Haute Route anyway. And Fergus, who actually lives in Brazil, so like 10 minutes where my son goes to school, was working as a Longtemps Rouge there. So of course that was another connection, and now he's the Haute Route speaker as such. So he's works for OC Sport, which is Haute Route all the time. So he was a big connection for us that got us involved. So I went to ride it myself for 3 days. It was in the mountains. I love the concept of it as such. But for us, there wasn't many tour operators involved then. So straight away, I could see, because some events you go to, and I can't see a way in as such, a way that I can offer more than the event offers, if you understand. I can't see a way of improve. Not, I'm not saying I'm improving that event, but bringing our show as such to that event to offer clients a little bit more than the event can offer. So with Hope Route in those early days, it wasn't quite the event it is now as such. Some of the backup wasn't, it's still amazing what they were doing for 500 odd riders. But it wasn't what I saw a few gaps, and I thought, right, I can come in here and bring my extras to the event as such with Alpcycles. So that was where and then I think we started with it. Was it not 20? I think it must be 5 years now. I think maybe.
You worked with them. And how the hell did you get roped into doing the Lantern Rouge?
Well, Fergus, like I said, he's one of my good friends here, and we've been riding together for ages. And I was at the events with Alpcycles anyway, and he was like, "Do you?" He'd had enough by then. He's a little bit older than me, and he'd had enough of doing it as such.
Over this, yeah,
and he was going into the speaking more, and basically then he got offered a full-time job with the speaking, with the announcing with Oak Route. So he said, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'll give it a go." And yeah, I don't even know how long I've been doing it now. It's quite a few years now. I think it must be four years maybe. But of course now, because back then for Ferg it was only the 3 7 days. Whereas of course now in Europe we've got 3 days, we got this, we got that. So it's turned into a lot of bike riding, yeah.
A lot of events, and you're doing all of them, right? So you've got they're still doing obviously the Alps one, the Pyrenees, the Dolomites, and then they've got the 3-day Ventoux, and is that right?
Yeah, so like this year, if it had run, I couldn't. There was Crans Montana, but I couldn't actually do that because it was clashing with a load of other events. But basically, I would have done the Dolomites, I would have done Haute Route 7, Haute Route Alps 7-day, Haute Route Pyrenees 7-day. We would have done Ventoux. So anything in Europe, basically, we do. But what we do now with the 7-day event, Fergus, the maniac, he used to do all 3 weeks himself. But it just got to the point where, as a rider, you were then as tired as everyone else as such. So it didn't.
Well, plus you've got guests staying with you as well, right? It must have been.
Like, with that, it works really well now because we have. So Alpcycles provides again. So my good friend who works for us all the time, Ben Lane, we do day on day off in the 7 days because of course it's 14 days. So it works really well then because as that role, you need to be fresh really to be able to help people as such and to be able to stay alert, excited and have a bit of chat, because otherwise you just by 5 days in you ended up like a zombie like all the other riders. So it kind of defeated. Then you were just getting through the days and you couldn't really help anybody out. So we found that day on day off works a lot better over the 2 7 days back to back. So that's what we do with those ones. Yeah.
Excellent. So other than the events that you do, you also do bespoke tours as well. How does that structure, and how can people reach out to you, and what kind of things do you offer in that respect?
Yeah, we're with the bespoke stuff, we get all sorts groups, men, ladies together, everything really. We can put fully bespoke packages together. A lot of people come to us and they say, hey, they might a lot of the people who use a bespoke as well, sometimes they've been on other trips with us and they like what we do, so they come and do the bespoke, they bring friends, etc. So we put a mountain. Normally, I don't tend to go to places that aren't mountains as such. That's our thing. So Dolomites, not so much. We don't tend to go as far as the Pyrenees really anymore because it's a bit too far to go for us really, because it's it's like 15 hours away as such. So but mainly Alps, Dolomites, we put packages together, riding, we sort all the hotels, all the logistics, all the feed stations, etc. And we tailor it to the group of what exactly they want really, what standard of accommodation, how far they want to ride, etc. So for us, that fills, if the calendar runs for us from sort of May through to October, that fills gaps we have in the calendar to fit. Most years we have a couple of groups who come every year at certain times, and for me as a rider, it's a different dynamic because like I said, some trips you've got maybe 8 people who don't know each other or 12 people who don't know each other, whereas with a lot of the bespoke stuff, everyone knows each other. So it brings in a different dynamic, so it's working with how different groups are as such. I think a lot of the bespoke groups, they want to have it's a bit more like a holiday as such. So they just want to, they don't want to be out till 6 o'clock in the evening riding the bikes. They want to be back 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock and by the swimming pool, etc. So it's all different types of people really.
Given it's been 14 years now, that I think that experience or the length of time you've been doing it must really help give you so many different options to people. You must have a phenomenal network of accommodation, chalets, hotels. You must know all the best bars and restaurants, and that must really help you provide something that's a lot of other firms who are maybe newer or haven't had that sort of longevity in the Alps, give them a little bit more.
Yeah, I think like places spend a lot of time over in like Alpe d'Huez area. You know, it's almost like a second home because it's such a cycling. It's like everybody, if they're new to riding, you know, and the riding's good in that area, but it's like going home almost. Going to Alpe d'Huez, it's really weird. Like the biggest thing for me this year will be I shall go anywhere myself, and all the bike shops. We've got a good friend there. You know, we run bike shops. We got friends who run restaurants, and when I think about it, it doesn't seem like 14 years, but you've been going to these places every year, the same couple of weeks. You know, and you're hanging out in the same bars, so you just get to know people, and you get to know where to take people to eat. You get to know what bike shops are good. You get to know what cafes are good. So it's and for me, I'm quite a loyal person as such as well. So like in Alpe d'Huez, we have Ollie and Kat own Cycle d'Huez, which is the shop basically. If you know Alpe d'Huez, as soon as you ride in, first bike shop on your right, like best position you could get. But they're just top people. And for us, always, if our clients are in there, all they have to say is we're about cycles, you know, and they know they're going to get great service. That's what it comes down to, really, is working with other, you know, we try to work with good businesses. That's what with good partners who've been with us, working with us for a long time. So that's the loyalty around that's super important to me, is to work with good. And also if there's trips, some people get in touch about bespoke stuff, and I can't do it in my area, or they want to go somewhere else. Don't be frightened. You know, if people email us quite often and say, do you do stuff here? And I just have to say, no, I can't, like Spain or Mallorca, and I just don't do that area. But we know people who will. So we try and, you know,
Connect them and
connect people with other people as well, because it's important to us. If they're new clients, old clients, or someone who might have been with us 10 years ago, but it's looking, you know, we have it quite often, I want to go to the Pyrenees. Are you doing anything down there right now? I'm like, no, I'm not. But I suggest these kind of people, you know, that's what we try to do as well. It's just have them so you know they're having a good time. That's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think that I know that we weren't going to talk about the current COVID situation, but one of the things I'm sure that most people listening will agree on is that the opportunity to travel and ride your bike and having that taken away from you, I think there's so many of us that are going to appreciate it that little bit more once we're allowed to do it again. And I think with using someone like yourselves, it just alleviates so much stress, and it just creates such a more rounded experience that, you know, if you've only got sort of 25, 30 holiday days a year and you're going to use 5 of them to go cycling in the Alps, that's the best bang for your buck in terms of getting the best experience out of that time.
Yeah, I think times have changed a lot, and you know, a lot of people, their first response is, "Oh, well, I can go with an Airbnb. You know, I can do Airbnb. I can do it all myself." Which, you know, you can do that, but for what I'd say, going with somebody like us, you more than being part of a community, etc. All these trips are fine if you do them yourselves until something goes wrong. Until the amount of times, and not just with my clients, where I'm on the side of the road, and you know, say I'm driving that day, somebody has a crash, I'm there to pick them up if they're my clients. But I spend so many other times where I'm picking up other people with nothing to do with me off the tarmac, getting an ambulance, sorting it all out. So a lot of times with these things, it's not when it all goes right, it's perfect when you go on your own. But when it all goes wrong and there's no one there to help, that's when it can be a real problem. But I don't, you know.
Yeah, I think it's beyond that as well. I think it's the leveraging off your network of bike shops and restaurants and the people you know. I mean, I think it's the whole piece, it's the whole experience.
If you turn up yourself and your bike's broken, you've got to sort it out. If you turn up yourself and your bike's broken, your wheel's broken, your cassette, your chain, we're going to work until we have to get it sorted out. We're going to sort those. We're going to smooth over all the little cracks to make, you know, it means more to me for somebody to have an amazing holiday and enjoy the experience than anything else for us. That's someday.
Yeah, that's wicked.
You know,
That's wicked. That's actually happened to me in the Alps. I arrived and my rear derailleur hanger had snapped in transit, but let's not go on to that. What are so obviously you've got a playground of unlimited climbs on your doorstep. What's your absolute favorite? Which is your best climb?
I think probably locally a lot of the climbs here I love, but with clients wise, even nowadays, clients are very keen to be on climbs. The big famous kind of Tour de France climbs. Locally to us, Col de Madeleine. It's one. I think when you ride the climbs all the time, some of them you start to dislike, not dislike, but you've hurt so bad on them that you have bad days. And the Madeleine is one climb that from our side, so it would be the northern side. So you're climbing, so it's longer but not quite as steep, and that's a hell of a climb. It's 26k, and I don't think there's ever a time you're with clients and they're like, oh, you're just pedaling up here easy. There's never a day where you don't get to the top and you just think, Jesus Christ, it's like you're just suffering. Even yeah, but probably one of my favorites as well, Col de Glibier. I mean, it's just it's stunning, and the
iconic, and it's beautiful up there, right? They're all beautiful.
Yeah, they're all beautiful in their own way. But I think there's something about the Glibier for me that I think, because you get to the summit as well, it's a tiny summit. It's just something that makes you realise how little we are in the world. I think when you're on the really big ones. And a lot of the times when I'm riding for myself, like today, I'll go out and I'll ride on my local smaller hills. So 10, probably biggest coals, 12k, something like that. So I'm not, in the next couple of weeks I'll go and check out the big ones. But it's not like anymore I don't jump my bike today and think I'm going to ride at the Col de Madeleine. I jump my bike and ride my local climbs. So as soon as you're into work mode and with clients, sometimes it's only the second, third time you might have been up there that year as such. So it's always a special time when you're back in the big mountains, like 2,000 meter plus, because it's just something. Yeah, for me, it just blows your mind, doesn't it, that you can ride uphill for 2 hours. It's like it's like when I look back at all the people who've come through the door over the years, and I still pinch myself now, because people are coming over to just ride up the hills, and some days I still pinch myself and think that I'm doing this for a living, and that's what's always kept me going, is that I just love being out on the pedals. Really, I love being with people, and I love watching people. Some people float up the hills, and it's not the old saying is, you don't get any better, you just go faster, kind of thing, and it is so true. The guy at the front in the group is going flat out, but the same as the person in the rear, everyone's still working as hard, which the mountains are a total leveler for people as such, because everybody is working as hard. It's just some people go faster than others, which I think is super cool. Yeah,
it's super cool, it's super personal, and it's like to be able to ride those iconic climbs, it's like going to play football at Wembley every day. It's not many sports that you can go and challenge yourself on the same climbs as the top pros, the same arena.
Definitely, and there is something. I can't say spiritual. That sounds really weird.
No, it's true. In the mountains, I'm with you on that.
There is, in the next couple of weeks, I know there'll be times, especially as, we've all been in your house for 8 weeks. We're not going to talk about it because it's everywhere at the moment. But, for me, I've been in my house for 8 weeks, and it's probably, I'd say, one of the only times my whole life that I haven't ridden outside. In 20, 25, 30 years that I've not ridden on tarmac.
Yeah, because for you guys, the lockdown was very strict, wasn't it? You weren't allowed out at all.
No, I didn't. When it first kind of happened, I was like, well, I'm going to carry on riding. Yeah, whatever kind of thing. But then it wasn't. It was so strict here. The police were everywhere. You wouldn't have even considered it. We saw one guy ride his mountain bike into the back of our village. It just happened that the gendarme were riding through. He was handcuffed on the bonnet within 10 minutes.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, it was you wouldn't have even considered. You wouldn't have even considered to pedal. Not a chance. And it's not even the police. It was you knew it was not a right time to ride your bike at all. So you just didn't do it. So to go out and like I said, it rained for 3 days. Obviously, as soon as we came out. But to be back in the mountains, and I know as soon as I get back, like this week, probably towards the end of the week, the weather's looking better. So we'll probably be up the Col de Loz this week.
Oh, amazing. I'm going to put that climb in the show notes because it looks absolutely spectacular.
Like, I don't want to bang on about the Loz, but the Tour de France, I think it will go ahead this year. And I know there's a lot of speculation around it. And I know people like, shouldn't this, shouldn't that. But for France, the Tour de France is everything, I think it will be a hell of a way to say we're coming out the other end. I think with the Tour de France going ahead, if it does, end of August, I think it'll be a huge. Well, no, I'm not talking about even the cycling community. In for people in France, it's not just a cycling.
It's beyond sport, right? It's bigger than sport.
And I think it'll be a real shame. I don't think they could. Everyone's like, well, they just announced it. There's no back into that, but they couldn't just announce the dates without speaking to Macron first. So I think there'll be a real push to get it all moving. And I think, and I know there's bigger things going on. We all know that, but we've got to get some normality, and it'll be fantastic to see the Tour de France back on the road. For me. So.
And I can't wait to see that climb. It looks amazing. It would be the first time it's in the Tour.
And for us, the Col de Loz, myself personally, and I've done so much. I'm not even for. I've done so much marketing around it. It's not for Alpcycles that I do the marketing around the Col. It's the fact that it's on my doorstep, and it's where I live. So
kind of feel proud of it almost.
Yeah, because also I know people will come and they ride all the other hills that I ride, and they're just they're as good. And I know, and I just want to bring people to the area, So like I've done bits with you about the Col de Loz. We were lucky to have Cyclist Mag out last year with us.
Great front cover, by the way.
Yeah, Alex DeFeel and Stu Bowers. We had a great couple of days, and some of his photos just insane, absolutely insane. And to watch the Tour de France go up the Maribel side, if it, fingers crossed, all goes ahead this year, it'll be a super cool day. I hope and pray, not from a business point of view, just to watch them on that road will be a cool time for everybody, I think, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we hope that, obviously we were planning to do a trip out for it, but we will get that back in the diary in the not too distant future when we've got a bit more visibility of when we can all travel and stuff. But I very much look forward to getting out.
Yeah, definitely. And I know at the moment we've been very lucky. Like I said, we didn't want to talk about stuff, but it's the elephant in the room, so you can't really not. Our client base for us it's been humbling how people have been who've paid for trips this year. The support, it's been amazing, really, from clients, which is pretty nuts, really, that people have been so understanding, because everybody's in the same boat. Nobody knows what's going on, but I think all we can be now for anybody is positive for the end of 2020, and super excited about going into 21, and let's get on and beat this. That's important, I think, is to move on.
Yeah, definitely, and look forward to new trips. And I think the positive response you've had from clients is, again, probably a absolute testament to the trips and the tours that you do. So
yeah,
that says it all. On a few of the other podcasts, obviously we've got listeners on here from around the world, and we've had Japan on here and Vietnam on here, but just going down into some of the details, tell us a little bit more about some of the accommodation people can expect. I know there's a variety that you can offer, and also some of the food. I mean, what is there regionally where you're at? Is there a particular type of house cuisine? And tell us a little more what people can expect off the bike as well.
Yeah, so depending on which kind of, a lot of the events as such, we do a lot of the food support with feed stations and that during the course to help with riders. And then we do a lot of, our big thing is aftercare as well. So if people finish events with Shelley, and a few of our staff have a food stand at the end, and we do all that side of things. But also with the hotels, we work with, like in our area, the Savoyard, the hotel we have here that we work with, they have what's called a Savoyard night, which is normally tartiflette, which is cheese, so calorie-rific as such, because it's like cheese, potato, raclette, which is all different types of meats on the table. So once a week they have this giant, and we have a couple of bespoke groups, and they always insist, like this year they're coming later in the year, they always insist that they must have Savoyard night in the hotel, because it's just like meats, potato, cheese everywhere. So that's a big speciality in our area. And it's, I think a lot of times as well, Shelley, some of the trips we run, like Marmot and that, we have the chalets, and we have staff ourselves come in and do the catering in that situation. So the food will vary on depending on who we got in, and the hotel food will be different to what we may serve, because we like our big chilies and our big curries and stuff like that kind of food within our chalets, big spag bowls, more basic kind of food. Whereas, the hotels, a lot of them, it's a little bit more fancy. So yeah, we kind of cater for, but with the big groups when we're in chalets, Shelley still loves to, even though she's got everything else going on, she still loves to come in. So like Vontu, fingers crossed, will run at the end of the year, and Shelley still, it's her favourite trip of the year because she runs 3 chalets at the same time on that one. So she just spends the whole yeah. So
she is superwoman.
So it's bizarre because she just caters. She's in one big, we all eat in the same place, so she cooks into one big chalet, and she absolutely loves it. Yeah. So food's a huge thing for Shelley. Feeding people is a massive part of it. Yeah.
What are the Vontu dates?
Do you know what? I don't know off the top of my head.
But that's September, end of September, is it?
October. So I think it
October. Okay.
First weekend-ish of October. So for this year, fingers crossed, it will be the first and last. Normally, Vontu is the last event of the season of the Haute Route European season, whereas this year it will be the first. So fingers crossed it will come together, because it'd be a great way, again, like the Tour de France, it'd be a great way to the Haute Route's followed by so many people from around the world, and I don't know if international, I don't know by then, hopefully even international flights will be moving by then, and people will be able to make it there. And it's always such a great destination to finish in with the Vontu. Everybody, like for me, it's probably, out of all the Haute Route events, it's probably my favorite 3-day, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because you imagine all season, I'm riding more in the big mountains, out, etc. And then, Vontu or the Provence area's got a little bit of everything. It's got the rolling roads, and every day we do all 3 sides of Vontu over the 3 days. But every day you get those hours of smaller climbs, rolling hills, fast pelotons moving, which I think, after being on the 7-day Haute Routes where you're, or as guiding, where you're suffering in the hills all the time, it's nice to do a bit of different riding and
likes to mix it up.
Yeah. So I always look forward to it, and I love that area anyway. Even if it don't run, I shall, again, like we were talking earlier, we got great friends there who run. We got France Bike Rentals down there, good friends of ours, Jean-Michel. So we always pop every year. We go and see them anyway, even if we got no trips down there, we should go and stay down there for a few days, because I love the riding. Right. It's just a cool area, even with the kids, it's a lovely area. So it's somewhere I always look forward to going. Yeah, definitely.
So you'll have to give me all the links of everyone we've mentioned during the chat, so I can put them in the show notes.
Yeah, I've been dropping a few names there, and I've been like,
you have, yeah. Give me the links as well. We'll get them in.
Yeah.
You mentioned looking forward as well on that last comment. You said, looking forward to getting out to Provence, but just looking forward to the end of this year and also next year. Look, I know that things are evolving day by day, week by week at the moment, and it's pretty uncertain, but that clarity will come quite quickly. What can people do if they are desperate to get rid of the shackles and book a trip for the end of this year, or want to start planning stuff for next year? I think planning for next year now is probably quite a good thing to do mentally, something to look forward to in the future. Given the uncertainty, should we get people to drop you and Shelley a note directly and start talking about dates and ideas? Where are you at with that the booking thing at the moment? What's the current status?
With my, for us, we're trying to be as positive as we can. And like I said, for us here, it's a little bit different because life's starting to, like I said to you before the interview, my son went back to school today, which, is a hugely weird time because he's been in the house for 9 weeks. So to drop him at school today was super weird, but stuff's got to move on. So like I said earlier, we're putting ourselves together a calendar starting towards the end of August, really, to try and for ourselves to salvage some of our year as such. So some of the trips, like I said, Marmot's supposed to be running in September, Haute Route towards the end of the year, but also if anybody's looking at bespoke, etc., just drop us an email. As soon as we've got any idea, the biggest thing at the moment is just when people can start moving around freely again. That's all we're waiting for. And I think, but anybody who's interested in anything, we've got a rough calendar coming together. So just drop us an email. Right now, we're not going to take any money off anybody or anything like that. But if you say, somebody gets in touch and says, Ade, we'd like to come these dates, we can pop them in the diary. And then when we've got an idea of stuff moving, we can look at deposits and stuff then. But, we're not going to be taking any money for anything at the moment. It's just hoping that things will get moving and people can start coming again. So I think everyone's got to be as positive as they can. And the tourist industry, for myself and Shelley, we work all year round in the tourist industry with the skiing as well, and not so heavily in the winter, but it's such a huge part of life for us. So it's a tough. Not so much. Not even a financial thing. It's just very strange to watch. The ski lifts swing to a stop and everything just stopped for tourism, and everywhere in the UK, France, Spain, tourism is such a huge thing. So it's super. And I know again there's bigger things happening, but it's important that everybody. I'm not saying people need to travel out of the UK if they want to go. It's just support local businesses, support
your local businesses. You become a part of your local community where you live now, and just to see that all grind to a halt must be pretty difficult to watch firsthand.
Yeah, and we all live how we live, and everybody in every situation to watch it all. When they said the ski lifts are shutting, we thought it was a joke. It's like they're not going to shut ski lifts, really? And then within 2 days, we're panic driving people out of resort to the airport. So it's a weird time, but again, it's good to see community and people pulling together, and trying to help each other out with things, which is, I think, in life. I think this whole experience, I think, is a humbling experience for everyone. I think it's I think you're getting me choked up here, Jules.
I know. Well, look, I think there are positives. There will be positives to come from it, and I think that for a lot of people, it's an opportunity to take stock and really appreciate what's important in life. And for a lot of people, that will be cycling and travel. So it will come back. And to coin a phrase from another podcast I enjoy, the Peter Crouch podcast. I'm not sure if you listen to that, but you'll be back stronger. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, no, I think also it's made a lot of people. I know people who are in touch with me who, they're so busy and they're so hectic. And then for the first time in their life, they're able to ride. In the UK, you're all pretty lucky, and they're not lucky, but, you can still ride a bit outside. And I've had people emailing me and they've lost like 5-6 kilograms, some 10 kilograms because, their jobs are so hectic. And then suddenly life slowed down a bit and they've been able to stay at home and they've been able to ride their bikes. And so even though it's a weird time,
there's some good to come from it. I totally agree.
A lot of people realise that the simple things in life are important, I think.
I couldn't agree more with you, although I haven't lost any weight, annoyingly. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with you.
Well, you're going to have to get on that turbo if you're going to do the mile, Mark.
Man, I've been on the turbo, I have, but it's the weight. It's like a yin and yang thing. I've been training quite hard, but I've also been probably having a few too many beers in the evening. But
got to get off them beers in the evening. That's the problem.
I know. Well, I've got with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Yeah, are you having a beer? Are you having a beer now? No, if you got a 5 and a 3-year-old.
Yeah, bit early for that, mate. Bit early for that, but won't be too far away, I'm sure. Awesome, mate. It's been lovely chat. I've got a couple more questions for you that people have sent in. One is around your on-bike nutrition. I know it's becoming very important these days. Will you be reintroducing milkshakes next year?
Oh, Jesus Christ! No, that'll be Ed Lindsay. And no, the budget will definitely not stretch to milkshakes this year. Tell him, not a chance.
What's all that about?
Basically, years ago, it used to be an ongoing joke because when you finish a ride, you can have a shake is good, isn't it? Like a milkshake, or you can have a protein shake, but they reckon a milkshake is basically the same thing. So we used to have these strawberry milkshake recovery drink, but this was like early days and they were actually really expensive and people used to absolutely hammer them. And it was just an ongoing joke then for about 5 years that some of the clients were like, have you got any milkshakes? And I'm like, no, you're not having any. So no, the milkshakes are not coming back. We'll make you a smoothie instead nowadays. We're much more healthy and down with all that stuff now.
I've got a few other questions, but to be honest with you, I think we've covered most of them. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat. It's
a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to catch up. For anyone that's interested, I've heard nothing but positive feedback and things about Alpcycles. So do drop Shelley and Ade a note. They'll be, as you've heard today, more than happy to help with any queries or questions that you have. And hopefully, mate, we will be out as well. Get a few unfound people to come and visit you and get that tour rolling once again. I'm very much looking forward to that.
If it doesn't happen this year, next year, we'll get on it earlier and we get it pushing. Also, with the events, I'm, even as not a business thing, I'm always at events. I'm at all these events. So if you see us out on the road, we're always in the vans. We've got the kit on. We've got the T-shirts on. So, we love meeting new people.
Go and say hi.
Have a coffee. Have a chat. If you're in trouble and you need help, give us a shout. We're always there. And like I said, the amount of people, we got track pumps, we got this, we got that. So the amount of people I change the tyres, I put them a new tube in. It's just what we do. So if we can help out, we do. That's the biggest thing. We meet so many people during the season. Then I meet people again sometimes who they're not my clients as such, and they're like, oh, I met you on so and so road, and you blew me tyre up, and and it's just nice because that's what I love. I love meeting people and riding with them, talking about bikes, and just generally chatting and helping people out if we can. So if you see us up on the climbs, even at the end of this year, come over and have a chat and say hi,
Say hello. Absolutely. You're a legend. Is there anything else, any other questions that you've got or anything else you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. Just, like I said, I think it's super important to look not just from a cycling point of view this year. Look to your local businesses, your local cafe, your local bike shop, and just support people. I think is more than before. Before we're always looking for a deal. We're going to go to Wiggle or we're going to go wherever. And I know all these businesses, everyone's got to survive, but the bigger companies might be able to ride it out. Whereas your local bike shop, shops. Hopefully, like we said, the bike trade, bikes are selling like hotcakes at the moment. So perhaps we're going to get another surge, which might be good for bike shops for the sake of.
Yeah, I hope so. But definitely supporting local. Support your local cycling app as well.
Yeah, definitely. Support Jules so he can come and ride the mile up with me in September. I think that's a good one.
Exactly. That's the deal.
I think we're all community. We just got to look after business and look after each other. I know. Oh, even over here, we're not supposed to. The riding as a group right now is not on really, and I've only ridden on my own at the moment. So I shall start riding with people slowly over the next couple of weeks. Just people. We're quite lucky where we are because our whole community is like 2,000 people, I think. So everyone we're quite lucky that we all know where we've been for the last 8 weeks because we're all in the same village. So we shall start riding together slowly, but only 2s or 3s probably over the next couple of weeks. So if you get that chance and that's allowed, it's a nice experience to ride with other people and get out and meet people. I think that's the cool thing. Yeah, definitely.
Well, listen, I will let you get out on the road and out onto the bike, into the mountains. Thank you so much for taking the time. Stay in touch. We'll make sure that everyone gets in contact and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, definitely. Take care all and see you at the end of the year, if not in 21. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And more importantly, don't forget to download the Unfound app and join cyclists from around the world on the hub. We'll see you on there.